Hi, this is Margaret Maloney, and welcome to the Death Dhamma podcast. Open and honest discussions with wise and skillful teachers about their experiences with life, death, and Buddhism. If you wonder how others on the path have dealt with death and dying and grief, then be sure to listen in. Everybody has a story, a perspective, and a valuable lesson to share. Embrace death, live a full life, and learn how to love impermanence. Because as my dear father used to say, nobody gets out of this alive. Hello, my friends, and welcome to a in-between seasons update. We are in between season 1 and season 2 of the Death Dhamma podcast. And I just wanted to check in and say hello, give you a quick update, and share some thoughts on karma with you. Season 2 is shaping up. We are going to be talking about different kinds of death, disappointments, impermanence, loss that aren't about the death of a person or another being, but are about maybe the death of an idea or an expectation. And I am in the midst of lining up and interviewing some excellent people to share with us. I'm looking forward to it. I believe you're going to love it. And I am in the midst also of creating the audio version of Sitting with Death. That will be coming out in 2022. I'm not sure about the release date on that, but going back to season 2 of the Death Dhamma podcast, definitely we will go live with the first episode of season 2 in the last week of January. That I know. And on that note, I just thought I would share with you something I write for a website called Buddhist Door Global. You may or may not already know that. And I wanted to share with you something that I posted recently about karma. And I called it, Whose Karma Is This? Is the death of my loved ones my karma or theirs? Our lives were intertwined, and so is our karma. When my mother and my husband died just 5 days apart, there were some who told me that I must have some really bad karma to have lost the two people I was closest to during the same time frame. There was nothing helpful about those comments. And eventually I realized that these comments were probably not meant to be judgments about me. They were meant to make others feel better about their own lives. If they could convince themselves that I had really bad karma, they could better come to terms with what had happened, and they could seek to assure themselves that something like this would not happen to them. Now, is it possible that my father and my husband, Ed, had karmic similarities? Within 2 years of one another, they both died from the same form of lung cancer. At some point in their lives, both of them had smoked. And it is apparent that lung cancer was in my father's genetic makeup. His brother, Bill, died 4 years later, also of lung cancer. My grandfather also battled lung cancer. Some might call this an interesting twist of fate. I've learned to call it karma. Is it my karma to have loved individuals who would have lung cancer? Absolutely. But my experience is not unique. In the United States, an estimated 131,880 people will die from lung cancer in 2021. Lung cancer and losing family and friends to lung cancer is part of our karma. Karma, or kamma in Pali, is a complicated topic. In its simplest form, it means action. In today's world, and especially in the West, many see it as payback or retribution. We see too many bumper stickers and t-shirts that say, karma's a bitch. In our culture, there are not enough acknowledgments of good karma, and not enough recognition that instant karma might be a catchy song by John Lennon, but it's not an accurate representation of what we should expect in the real world. If you find yourself wanting someone who you perceive as committing bad acts to be punished, be careful. You are falling into the trap of wishing them ill will. And your intention creates your karma. You will see people perform the same actions and appear to receive different results. This could be true. It can also mean that the karma from a particular action will ripen at another time. The Lona Phala Sutta teaches us that some people will perform the same action with different karmic results. And I quote, "There is the case where a trifling evil deed done by a certain individual takes him to hell. There is the case where the very same sort of trifling deed done by another individual is experienced in the here and now, and for the most part, barely appears for a moment. Now, the reason for these different results has to do with how you have developed yourself." And I'm going to continue with the quote. "Now, a trifling evil deed done by what sort of individual takes him to hell? There is the case where a certain individual is undeveloped in contemplating the body, undeveloped in virtue, undeveloped in mind, undeveloped in discernment, restricted, small-hearted, dwelling with suffering. A trifling evil deed done by this sort of person takes him to hell. Now, a trifling evil deed done by what sort of individual is experienced in the here and now, and for the most part, barely appears for a moment. There is the case where a certain individual is developed in contemplating, developed in virtue, developed in mind, developed in discernment, unrestricted, large-hearted, dwelling with the immeasurable. A trifling evil deed done by this sort of individual is experienced in the here and now, and for the most part, barely appears for a moment. Was I a bad person in a past life? This is an unanswerable question. And anyway, there's nothing I can do about my past lives. All I can do is work to be the best person that I can be now. The karma that I experience is a blend of my past and current actions. I cannot go back in time and change anything about my current or past lives. Time travel storylines, while fun, are inherently flawed. You're only supposed to change one thing, but if you change other things, the universe is cursed forever. You're never supposed to meet yourself in another dimension, or the universe is cursed forever. Oh my gosh, forget about all that. It's much easier to just work on your life as you live it right now. You don't know what will come. You do know that whatever happens is part of your karma. There's no need to rush through any part of your life. It's all as it is meant to be. Just keep practicing. Do not spend time trying to predict how your karma will ripen. The Asandita Sutta says there are these 4 unconjecturables that are not to be conjectured about, that would bring madness and vexation to anyone who conjectured about them. Which 4? The sutta goes on to state that the precise working out of the results of karma is one of the 4 things not to be conjectured about. It never occurred to me to ask why my family members died when they did. To practice Buddhism is to accept impermanence and to know that your karma cannot be fully mapped out, nor predicted. To fully embrace impermanence is to understand everything that arises will cease. Everything also means everyone. We are all going to die, and we are all going to lose people we love. This is part of our karma. Thanks for listening. I enjoyed sharing that with you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you via the podcast in January. Bye for now.